Okay guys, so I'm going to go over the router jig that I made for doing cutting board handles. This is the jig. So I made a previous video on how to use it with the trim router. You can use it with the trim router, you don't have to use it with the trim router. I just made that video to show that it could be used with the trim router. My preferred method is with using a plunge router. I have my Festool OF1010 here. You don't have to use a Festool router, any plunge router will work, but I'm going to use that just to show you how to use it. So basic setup for the jig, you loosen up both sides. I like to draw a center line going across the center of the board here as well as over here. I don't know if that really picks it up on the camera, but there are little tick marks right here and here. And then there's a line going all the way down the center here that centers the jig for you. So my preferred method, I'll go and set it on there, center it up both sides, lengthwise and widthwise, get it nice and centered, hold that in place, tighten these back two. Then you can go make sure it's centered, hold these two, center there, centered there, then you can go and clamp. Now, with the older model of the jig, I had the base a little bit different. I've since changed it so you can actually clamp from the side right here. Before, these little triangle pieces used to be on the edge, so it was kind of hard. You had to get it from the bottom. So I've moved them a little bit so that you can clamp from here. Just be careful, make sure that the jig is perfectly aligned at the edge of the wood, because if you clamp it, if it's not, then you can actually break the seam right here. So just make sure that you have it right up against the wood. All that the clamping is supposed to do is just to hold it in place. You don't want to put too much pressure on it, because then you can break the plastic. You want to make sure that all you're doing is just preventing it. I mean, it's pretty snug as is. You can still move it, so all you want to do is just put a little bit of pressure. And then not too much, just a little bit. And that holds it in place. Same thing on this side. Not too much, just to hold it in place. And you can see over here that this is actually above. So you can, if you have a very long piece, you can still clamp above the piece and still be able to run your router across. It's not going to get in the way. So from there, use a whatever brass bushing, whatever bit size you like to use. I like to use a bit from Rockler. There's a little bit of a side profile there, but as you can see, it goes completely through the bushing without hitting it, so you can plunge completely through it, so it makes it easy setup. You can get your groove cut all in one setup. So I'll kind of show you how to do that. Make sure you have it set up. Try not to hit it when you take it off. But quick and simple, there you go, you have a hole. And that's deep enough to where if I wanted to, I can go and take my 1/8 inch router bit and I can put it all the way down in there and do a round over just on the top of there. That's pretty much it. You can do this in end grain and edge grain. I'll quickly show you that. So as you can see, there you go. Nice smooth cut, very minimal sanding. Now I'll go set it up in the end grain. Now for doing these, you want to have something that holds your board pretty steady. For me, I just went and used the micro jig match fit system, and I cut a grid system in a piece of plywood. I have vertical and horizontal lines to where I can go and clamp my piece wherever. And that thing's pretty solid. And then I just clamp this. It's just basically an L-shaped piece of wood, just piece of plywood up top, piece of plywood on the side, and then I clamp that in place and make sure it doesn't move around. Pretty simple. So here's the jig. Set it up. I'm not really going to worry about centering it and everything this time. I'm just trying to show you that you can still do the system. Alright, that's solid. You want to make sure and use it with dust collection because wood can build up on the edge right here, which causes you to get a bad cut. You want to make sure you're cutting right up to the edge. Set that in there. And a little bit deeper. There you go, same thing, nice perfect circle, very minimal sanding, and again I did it just deep enough to where I can still run this 1/8 inch round over bit. Pretty much it. There you go. With a plunge router it's much faster. Go over a couple things with the jig really quick. So if I loosen these, it will go down all the way to just over an inch. This opening is 1 inch by 5.5 inches. I can make them any sizes if you want to do different sizes, but it will hold a board that's just over 1 inch. It's about 1 1/8 inches, and then it'll go all the way up to just over 4 inches. So if you have any questions, let me know. I can try and get back to you as soon as possible. That's pretty much it. That's the router jig. Pretty simple.